Women of color are the most founded entrepreneurial demographic, just the least funded. We are the nation's first venture capital fund that is built by women of color for women of color. And we invest in women of color co-founded businesses. They receive about 0.39% of all the VC funding while making up over 20% of the US population. So the work that we do is very important. These people are more than deserving.
Hello again.
Hello.
Long time no see.
Yes.
We were just standing together backstage, get it. Thank you so much for being here, truly.
Oh, thank you for having me.
So we have a lot to get through. Let's jump right in. I would love to just start by setting the table here a little bit. Where are you at in this legal battle you're fighting?
In this legal battle, the plaintiffs filed 3 things against our companies. They filed a temporary restraining order that got withdrawn. They filed a preliminary injunction against one of our grant programs. And they also filed the case itself. We went to court on the PI, the preliminary injunction. We won in the district. It was immediately appealed. We lost in the appeals process. And the case itself has yet to even be touched.
So where are you, what happens next? This most recent loss in this ruling, where do you go from here? Because there's still a long fight to go.
Yes and no, it depends on a variety of things. But what I can say is the options would be, of course, to appeal to the Supreme Court. Just to educate the audience some, the plaintiffs in our case, Edward Bloom, the founder of AAER, American Alliance for Equal Rights, he recently had a Supreme Court victory of stopping affirmative action at the colleges of June of 2023. And we were the next lawsuit he sued basically after his victory. And I don't desire, this is me speaking personally, not my legal staff, but I don't desire a SCOTUS ruling. I don't desire the implications of what that could be if it didn't go in our favor and how that could be so catalytic for other people. My desire is for us to be able to come to an agreement of settlement to be released from this.
Now tell me a little bit about what it's been like investing throughout this, because the Fearless Fund hasn't stopped working. So walk me through your success to date and what you've been up to.
Thank you. The Fearless Fund has made a lot of impact in the area of venture capital. Women of color are the most founded entrepreneurial demographic, just the least funded. We are the nation's first venture capital fund that is built by women of color for women of color. And we invest in women of color co-founded businesses. They receive about 0.39% of all the VC funding while making up over 20% of the US population. So the work that we do is very important. These people are more than deserving. Our success is very simple. Prior to the Fearless Fund's existence, Black women had an average fundraise of $30,000, and we came on the scene cutting 7-figure checks. We have invested in almost 50 companies. Our women are phenomenal. They are getting 8-figure revenue, year-over-year growth, aggressive growth, and their next levels of capital infusion will position them for exits. They are doing extremely well. They're on the cover of everybody's magazines, everybody's magazine list.
Give us some examples. Give us some examples while we're here.
Examples?
Yes.
It's like picking a favorite kid.
I know, I'm asking you to pick a favorite child on stage. How about you pick one child you love a lot to tell us about?
Well, we love all of them.
We love all of them. We love all.
But I'll just give you a few. Partake Foods, Slutty Vegan, the Lip Bar, 13 Loon, those are just a few, but they are all amazing.
Fun fact, I actually have the Lip Bar in my makeup kit upstairs.
You do?
I do, actually. So tell me a little bit about how you're thinking about this next phase for the Fearless Fund.
Next phase for the Fearless Fund, we will continue to do the work that we're doing. Global impact for us is a very big focus. What happens to Black and brown people anywhere happens to Black and brown people everywhere. So 20% of our portfolio is actually allocated to international investments or international impact. And we look forward to making this expansion very successful.
And you do a lot of policy work as well, right? Tell us a little bit about that.
Well, we don't do a lot of policy work. I think it knocks on our door kind of by accident. Prior to us even being sued, I wanted to be an advocate in the space of more access to capital for marginalized communities. So we have definitely taken on the initiative now that we've actually been a victim of this lawsuit to say we need more policies in place to protect the right to fund marginalized communities. And the reality is it's just good business. At the end of the day, we know that the US economy is made up of over 54% small business. businesses and growing. When you cause disruption to access to capital, you're causing disruption to the U.S. economy as a whole. This is more of a macro issue than the micro issue that you see that we're going through.
Now tell me a little bit, we're about to come to the audience for questions, so get some ready, everybody. But tell me a little bit about your LPs, JP Morgan Chase, MasterCard. Tell me about how they've been a partner to you, especially through the last couple of years.
Well, a lot of our LPs had already reinvested in Fund 2 prior to being sued. So we had a lot of re-ups. Post-litigation, we have had obstacles to overcome in fundraising, because people were like, oh gosh, they're under litigation, do we fundraise? So we had closings falling apart left and right. And I was like, oh no, this can't be happening. And as of recent, though, we have hired placement agencies. We're looking for capital even outside the country, just diversifying the LP base, I would say. But companies such as that you've mentioned before, a lot of them had already invested in Fund 2.
And have they been talking to you through this? Like, what are those conversations like?
Oh, everybody has definitely been talking. I would like to see probably more than talk from a lot of them, not just the ones that you've mentioned, from a lot of them as a whole, because everybody was very loud in June of 2020 at the wake of George Floyd. We saw commitments in the area of diversity, equity, inclusion like we had never seen them before. And due to these lawsuits, we've experienced and witnessed this chilling effect of people not talking much at all. And it's still a priority, it's still needed, and at the end of the day, it's just good business and good for the economy.
To that end, there is an indisputable societal level chill when it comes to talking about DEI. To what do you attribute that?
These lawsuits.
Lawsuits.
I think it's litigation. They have used litigation as a way to try to chip at diversity, and it doesn't have to be that way. I think if everybody were to stand strong in the statements that they've said in just recent years, I mean, 2020 was just 4 years ago, to stand strong in those statements and stand by the money they said they were deploying, I think that's what's needed. I don't even think it's a matter of saying women, people of color, diversity, equity, inclusion. This is just good business. And every report says that diverse teams outperform non-diverse teams on any given day. This is just good for the economy. Capitalism is just good across the board.
All right, I'd like to open up the floor to questions. We have a paddle over there. Please stand up. Hi, say your name, company, and please keep it concise.
Hi, Ari. Emma Hinchliff with Fortune. It's nice to see you. You know, even in the past week, we've seen so much more of Silicon Valley and venture capital specifically coming out in support of Trump. What is it like for you to see your colleagues in this industry aligning themselves with the movement that brought this lawsuit forward against you?
Whew. Well, we are clearly caught up in somebody's political agenda that I had no plans on being a part of at all. What I can say when it comes to working in financial services, it's not that you lean towards either side. You're not leaning towards a Democratic side or a Republican side. You lean towards the side of your outcome. In financial services, we work with whoever is in office. We just do. Anybody that has a stance against diversity, I think that's more so where you're going with the comment. Yes, that is concerning. That is definitely concerning because at the end of the day, it's just good business. And if you're choosing to not support diversity, it is alarming because are you trying to signal that your desire of oppression and suppression is greater than a desire to make money when this is capitalism and you're in it to make money?
Well, and we actually talked about this a little bit backstage, but you were really surprised when you got the news about this lawsuit.
Oh, of course. It was a beautiful sunny day in Atlanta, Georgia. And I found out in the news that we were being sued.
Wait, you found out on the news?
Yes, I found out in the news. I thought it was ChatGPT or something had taken place. Mind you, we are tech investors, just like many of you in the audience. And I said, somebody has something mixed up. And that's how I found out. And I realized that I told my staff, you know what? Federal lawsuits are public. Go find the filing, and they found the filing.
So I had no idea. I hope you can see the genuine surprise. Any other questions for Arian?
I can talk all day.
I would say I can talk all day too. You know, one of the things that I've been wondering about is how you suspect some of these lawsuits, the societal level chill, will affect funding towards DEI initiatives. How do you sort of see those downstream effects playing out?
You mean in reference to just the chilling effect overall?
Yeah.
It's concerning. One thing I can say is that when race-based consciousness is removed, then race actually, especially with Black and brown people, get left behind. There has to be a level of awareness, there has to be a level of consciousness, there has to be a level of intentionality in order to produce the results. I tell people all the time, I actually desire the world that our plaintiffs desire. A world where race-conscious things don't matter. We're just not there yet. We have to have a focus and we have to have a level of intentionality to get to a place of an equitable society. Now, once we get there, feel free. I have no problem with it at all. I would love to be able to not have these emphasis, which is why we're even petitioning the current administration, the current president and vice president to definitely step up in executive orders. They've done executive orders in diversity before. We're asking for one in the area to protect the right to fund marginalized communities. And it's not personal. Whoever was in office, we'd be asking them to do this.
How would you describe the state of diversity in venture capital?
There is no diversity.
I asked it open-ended, but I kind of knew where you were going.
The audience laughing. I work in an industry that is 92% white male on the investor side. I'm a strong believer that if we can diversify the investors, we can diversify the investments. Because you can take away racism and sexism, and you still have what you call proximity. People are going to do business with people who are in their networks and who they're surrounded by. It doesn't even have to be a level of biasness there. You're going to get deal flow from what's in your proximity. So yes, I don't know if there's too much diversity in the industry that I work in, but I am an advocate for it and I definitely encourage it.
So one of the other things I would be really curious about is you said something to me while we were sitting in line for coffee outside. You said the most important thing to me is the law. What did you mean by that?
The law, because right now I'm in a lawsuit and all people are doing, you go and you argue the law. And I even did a post recently. I'm like, there was a time when slavery was legal. Just because something is legal does not make it right. So we have to make sure that there are laws in place that are there to protect our right to fund marginalized communities. So having perfect policies, well, I won't say perfect, but having policies in place that support this type of work, support minority fund managers, support access to capital, it is very much so important. Right now, our industry of PEVC is a $62 trillion industry. And the bulk of that, a lot of the large investors come from pension funds. Well, pension funds are built off the backs of police officers and teachers and firefighters. And there are people of color in large numbers in these fields. And then it goes up, of course, into the venture capital world, where, like I said, is 92% white male. And then it goes up from there into the startups. And it very rarely makes a full circle back to a lot of the people of color, whose backs this money was built off of. So yes, I do desire for policies to be put in place to make this a more equitable society.
Distill it down a couple of sentences. What's one thing you want this audience to take away?
One thing I want the audience to take away, that diversity makes good money. Just plain and simple. It's just good money.
And good lipstick in some cases.
Oh, well, thank you.
Thank you so much, Arian, for being here.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for following the case.
I'll continue to do so.
Yes.